You are listening to The Testimonial, a podcast of critical essays bearing witness to the forces that shape our world. We conduct historical autopsies, expose hidden systems, and decode the profound truths within culture, politics, and the seemingly whimsical. Each episode is a deep dive, a forensic investigation. This is the evidence. You are about to hear the testimony on The Ultimate Trophy, the psychology of predation from the Savannah to the Slum. For a moment, through the crosshairs, they are not human beings. They are prey.
Welcome. Now, what you just heard, that's not from a movie script. It's a real account describing something called sniper safaris that allegedly took place during the Bosnian War. The idea? Wealthy foreigners paying for the chance to shoot its civilians in Sarajevo. It's a horrifying thought, and it's the endpoint of a psychological journey we're about to unpack. So, here's the core argument, the big idea we're digging into. It's the thesis that big game trophy hunting and the almost unthinkable horror of hunting human beings aren't two separate, isolated things. No. Instead, they exist on a single, unbroken line, a spectrum of violence. And what fuels this spectrum? Well, it's a potent mix of power, an extreme kind of boredom, and this is the absolute key, a mental trick. It's a process called desubjectification. It's the little switch in the brain that allows a predator to look at a living, breathing subject and see, well, an object, a thing, a target. This is the mechanism that makes the whole game possible. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to go back in time. We need to trace how the hunt stopped being about, survival and necessity and slowly transformed, step by step, into a pure ritual of power. And you can see this disturbing evolution play out so clearly. Start in medieval Europe. The king declares all the deer in the forest his property. If you poach one, you could be killed. The hunt becomes a show of who's in charge. Now fast forward to colonial America. They take that exact same logic and apply it to people. The government literally puts a cash bounty on the scalps of Native Americans. Then you get the colonial safari era, where the great white hunter uses superior rifles to dominate the African landscape, a symbol of imperial might. And today, that same legacy is alive and well. It's just been repackaged and sold by a multi-billion-dollar industry under the very clever alibi of conservation.
And here's the thing, even people back then saw it for what it was. This quote from a colonial hunter just nails it. It wasn't sport, not by a long shot. When you have a high-powered rifle and your target doesn't, there's no risk. There's no fair contest. It's not a test of skill, it's a technical execution. It's a performance.
And that performance of dominance? Well, today, it's a product you can buy. $50,000. That's roughly the price for a large man lion in what's called a canned hunt in South Africa. These animals are born in captivity, used for tourist photos when they're cubs, and then released into an enclosure to be shot. Life itself has become the ultimate luxury good.
So we've seen the history, we've seen the price tag, but what is actually going on inside the head of someone who does this? What makes them tick? Well, the analysis suggests it really boils down to three core components.
You have what you might call a God complex, then a profound kind of boredom, and finally that mental switch we talked about, desubjectification. These three things, they all feed into each other. So let's take them one by one, because this is where it gets really fascinating.
First up, the God complex. And it's not just about simple arrogance. I mean, think about it. If you have so much money, you can buy anything you can possibly imagine. What's left? What's the one truly scarce thing? It's agency over life and death. The hunt becomes this powerful ritual to prove that you operate on a different plane, that you're above the rules that govern the rest of us.
Next, you have pathological boredom. There's this concept in psychology called the hedonic treadmill. Basically, we get used to pleasures, and we always need a bigger, better hit to feel anything. Well, at the extreme end of wealth, that treadmill is spinning out of control. Nothing is exciting anymore. The only way to feel a real, genuine thrill is to do something transgressive, to break a major taboo. And this helps explain why famous, named animals like Cecil the lion become targets. Killing a lion is one thing, but killing a symbol, that's a much bigger violation. And for this mindset, a much bigger thrill. And this all rests on that final piece, the mental switch. A philosopher, Martin Buber, talked about two ways we relate to the world. We can have an I-thou relationship, where we see another as a conscious, living being like ourselves. Or we can have an I-it relationship, where we see them as an object to be used. Predation for sport requires you to turn a thou into an it, and language is a huge part of this. Hunters don't kill, they harvest. An animal isn't a creature, it's a specimen. You see how that works? It sterilizes the act.
Now, here's the most crucial.
And, frankly, the most chilling part of the argument. Once you've perfected that mental mechanism, once you get really good at turning a thou into an it, that skill becomes perfectly transferable. The line we draw between animal prey and human prey, it's not biological, it's ideological. It's just an idea.
This isn't a new idea. It was prophesied with chilling accuracy back in 1924 in the short story, The Most Dangerous Game. The villain, General Zaroff, is an aristocrat who gets bored hunting animals. So, he starts hunting the only prey that can reason, human beings. And his justification? It perfectly captures the predator's creed. The weak of the world were put here to give the strong pleasure.
And then, in 1992, that literary horror story became a real-world horror story. General Zaroff's fictional island found its real-world counterpart in the hills overlooking Sarajevo, a city under siege, where the collapse of civilization created a perfect playground for this predatory impulse to run free.
And if you look at this table, the parallel is just undeniable. The motive is identical, a transgressive thrill. The justification uses different words, conservation versus ethnic hatred, but it does the exact same job. It dehumanizes the target. The target's status is reduced from a living being to an object, a trophy, or a silhouette, and the power dynamic is one of absolute advantage. It is the same psychology. So, the evidence has been laid out, and the argument here is that the line connecting these acts isn't some hypothetical slippery slope. It's not a what-if, it's a historically documented path, paved by a very specific and very dangerous way of thinking.
Which, of course, brings us to the final, really unsettling question. If this continuum is real, and it's powered by immense wealth and bottomless boredom, where does it logically end? The verdict presented here is pretty clear. The trophy hunter and the human hunter are, in essence, psychological kin. The core impulse is the same, the only thing that's different is the target society allows them to shoot. And in this view, the modern trophy industry acts as a kind of cultural greenhouse for this pathology. It normalizes it, and it provides a convenient moral alibi, conservation, so clients can buy a clear conscience along with their kill.
And we need to be clear, we're not just talking about a few individuals. This is a massive global system. The illegal wildlife trade is worth up to $23 billion a year. That puts it right up there with some of the largest transnational crimes, like drug and arms trafficking. This industrial-scale commodification of life is deeply embedded in our global economy.
So in the end, the real prize isn't the head on the wall or the rug on the floor. The ultimate trophy is something internal. It's the proof that you've successfully silenced your own conscience, that you can stand outside the moral circle of life and treat the world not as a community to be a part of, but as a catalog of things to be owned.
The path forward is not to build a higher fence. It is to tear the fence down. The most dangerous game is not the one we pursue, but the story we tell ourselves about who we are in this living, breathing world. That is a story we can and must rewrite. You have been listening to the testimonial on The Ultimate Trophy, the psychology of predation from the Savannah to the Slum. If you enjoyed this summary, for the full testimonial, please follow the link in the description or search for the testimonial on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on social media @The Testimonial for updates and to join the conversation. If you believe a topic deserves a testimony, let us know.